Have you ever felt like you don't quite fit in, not because you're flawed, but because you're rare? In a world where conformity is the norm, some souls shine differently. They walk with quiet confidence, think deeper, feel stronger, and often live on the edge of the ordinary. If you've ever been misunderstood, deeply intuitive, or unshakably authentic, this might just be the confirmation you've been waiting for. This video uncovers 8 signs that you have an extremely rare personality. The kind that doesn't just stand out, but changes everything it touches. Get ready to discover what sets you apart from the crowd and why the world needs more people like you. Number 1. You think deeply, speak rarely. In a world that celebrates noise, speed, and surface-level connection, there exists a rare kind of soul who thinks deeply and speaks rarely. Not out of shyness or weakness, but out of intentional wisdom. If this resonates with you, it's because you are one of those individuals who doesn't rush to fill the silence with meaningless chatter. Instead, you allow your thoughts to marinate, your insights to ripen, and your words to emerge only when they carry purpose. While many speak to be heard, you speak to be understood. This distinction, though subtle, is profound because it shifts your entire relationship with the world and with yourself. You see, thinking deeply is not just a trait. It's a lifestyle. It means you live in a constant state of inner dialogue, reflection, and analysis. You question not just what is happening, but why it's happening. You see beneath the surface of events, conversations, and even people. You notice patterns others miss, sense motives others ignore, and often understand complexities that escape those who skim through life. Your mind is a labyrinth of thought where clarity is earned, not assumed. You might spend hours, even days, turning over an idea before you voice it, not because you are unsure of yourself, but because you understand the weight of words. You know that once spoken, a word cannot be taken back. It becomes a ripple in the world around you, and that ripple carries impact, consequences, energy. So you choose your words with care. Some may mistake your silence for aloofness or disinterest, but the truth is, you're often the most present person in the room. You are listening, not just to the words being said, but to what's being left unsaid. You listen for tone, for intention, for contradiction, and for emotional resonance. You don't just hear, you absorb. You watch how people say things, not just what they say. You see the flicker in their eyes, the tension in their shoulders, the hesitation in their voice. This makes you an incredible judge of character and an intuitive communicator, even if you rarely speak. When you finally do speak, your words tend to land with power. People pause, they listen, they lean in, not because you're louder, but because you're realer. There is a quiet magnetism about your presence that cannot be faked or fabricated. You don't speak to compete, you speak to connect. You don't speak to impress, you speak to express. And that authenticity is rare, almost sacred in today's overly stimulated performative culture. In your silence, there is strength. In your thinking, there is clarity. In your rare words, there is truth. You have likely found that many of your most profound conversations happen not in groups, but one-on-one, or in moments of stillness. You're the kind of person who can spend an entire evening in silence and still feel connected to someone. Because for you, connection isn't based on constant verbal interaction. It's based on energetic alignment and emotional depth. This makes your relationships fewer but richer, your friendships deeper but more selective. You may not be the loudest voice in the room, But when people need real guidance, when they're at a crossroads or facing darkness, they come to you. Not the noisiest person, but the one who actually listens, reflects, and offers grounded insight. And still, you remain misunderstood by many, especially those who equate silence with uncertainty or view depth as unnecessary. But that doesn't shake you, because part of your rare personality is that you are not easily influenced by the world's opinions. You don't need to constantly explain yourself, because you're not seeking validation, you're seeking truth. You are a thinker, a philosopher in your own right, a quiet observer of the human condition. And though your voice may not echo in every hallway, the few places where it does are forever changed by its echo. You are the calm in the chaos, the clarity in confusion, the pause in a world addicted to play and repeat. So continue to think deeply and speak rarely, not because you must, but because that is your power, your signature, your uncommon brilliance. Number 2, you value truth over popularity. In a society increasingly driven by likes, shares, and the constant pressure to be accepted, choosing truth over popularity is not just a personality trait, it's a bold act of inner strength. When you value truth over popularity, you refuse to compromise your integrity just to fit into someone else's version of what's acceptable or desirable. You don't bend your values to match trends or say what people want to hear just to avoid discomfort. You speak what is real, even if your voice shakes. You stand for what you believe in, even if it means standing alone. This doesn't mean you are confrontational or unkind. Rather, it means you're unshakably rooted in honesty. You don't pretend to be someone you're not. You don't chase applause. You don't sell pieces of your soul for fleeting moments of approval. While others might mold their personalities to match the crowd, laughing at what they don't find funny, agreeing with what they don't believe, staying silent when something needs to be said, you stand apart. You understand that popularity can be purchased with performance, but truth requires courage, and you choose courage every time. This often makes you the outsider in superficial circles, the black sheep in groups where honesty is considered uncomfortable, even threatening. But you're not bothered, because you don't crave to be seen, you crave to be known. You don't want everyone to like you, you want the right ones to truly understand you. You understand that truth doesn't always come with applause, but it always comes with peace. And that peace, to you, is far more valuable than the temporary high of being accepted for a version of yourself that isn't real. People who value popularity often wear masks. They become what others want them to be. But you're not interested in that. You know that every time you lie to fit in, you betray the most sacred part of yourself. So you don't dilute your beliefs to keep the room comfortable. You don't fake agreement just to avoid judgment. Instead, you sit with the discomfort of being real. And in doing so, you give others silent permission to do the same. You may not even realize it, but your truth has a ripple effect. It challenges others to reflect on their own authenticity. It pushes people to question the roles they are playing, the masks they are wearing, the lies they are telling, just to be liked. And while some will resist you, reject you, even those who are ready for something deeper will find comfort in your presence, because with you, there is no pretending. With you, what you see is what you get. You understand that truth isn't just about words, it's about alignment. You act in ways that are congruent with what you believe. You don't preach kindness while practicing cruelty. You don't demand loyalty while being dishonest. You don't talk about respect while gossiping behind closed doors. You live your truth, and that makes your character rare. It's not always easy. There are moments when being honest costs you relationships, opportunities, and sometimes even safety. But still you choose it, because you know that what you lose by being honest was never truly yours to begin with. You would rather be alone with your truth than surrounded by people who only accept a filtered version of you. And in that decision, you find power, you find clarity, you find liberation. Because truth, even when it isolates you, also frees you. It releases you from the exhausting cycle of performance and gives you permission to simply exist, fully, unapologetically, and authentically. That kind of existence may not be celebrated by the majority, but it is deeply respected by those who matter. In a world desperate for validation, you have chosen self-respect. I know you can call on me because I know you can call on me in the midst of the night. In a world desperate for validation, you have chosen self-respect. I know you can call on me because I know you can self-respect. I know you can call on me because I know you can self-respect. In a culture obsessed with being liked, you have chosen to be real. That is rare. That is powerful. That is the essence of a person who values truth over popularity. And in the long run, it is that kind of person who leaves the deepest impact, not because they were the loudest, but because they were the most genuine. Number 3. You see through people instantly. There's something quietly powerful about the way you move through the world. Something unspoken yet undeniable, and it's rooted in your rare ability to see through people instantly. While others might take weeks, months, or even years to understand someone's true character, you feel it within moments. It's not about judging appearances or relying on surface-level cues. It's something deeper, intuitive, and often hard to explain. It's as if you can read a person's energy before they even speak. You sense their intentions beneath their smiles, hear the truth behind their words, and feel the tension they try to hide. It's like your inner radar is always scanning, not for flaws, but for authenticity. You don't need someone to tell you who they are. You already know. Your sensitivity to emotional undercurrents gives you a silent understanding of the people around you. You pick up on the smallest details. The shift in someone's tone, the flicker in their eye, the pause before they answer. These micro signals that others overlook become a language only you understand. You sense when someone is lying, even if their words sound perfect. You can feel when someone is broken, even if they appear successful. You can tell when someone is secretly bitter, insecure, manipulative, or carrying silent pain. This gift often sets you apart. It makes you cautious about who you let into your life, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You've seen too much, too quickly, to pretend that charm equals character, or that loud confidence means inner strength. You've learned that many people are wearing masks, and while the world may be fooled by the act, you see the truth behind the performance. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This can be isolating. It can make social gatherings feel draining, conversations feel performative, and relationships feel hollow when you know the other person isn't being real. You crave depth, not just connection. You crave honesty, not just politeness. You want the kind of connection where masks come off, where silence is safe, and where energy speaks louder than words. Because of this, your circle is likely small, but sacred. You don't open up easily, not because you're cold, but because you've learned the cost of giving your time, heart, and truth to people who only pretend to reciprocate. You've seen how some people only come close to take, not to give. You've seen how some wear kindness like a costume, and how others weaponize vulnerability once you let them in. So now you trust your gut over appearances. You trust the feeling in your body, the energetic shift in the room, the uneasiness in your spirit when something or someone isn't aligned. This gift of seeing through people instantly isn't just about protecting yourself though, it's also how you serve others. You often know what someone needs before they do. You can feel when someone is silently suffering and offer them the exact words or presence they need to feel seen. You help people feel understood without them having to explain themselves. And in a world where so many are starving for authentic connection, that makes you a rare kind of healer. But this ability can also be heavy. You carry truths others ignore. You see darkness others deny. You absorb energies that aren't yours and feel burdens that don't belong to you. You're constantly navigating between understanding others and protecting your own peace. And yet, you wouldn't trade this gift. Because you know it's more than just intuition. It's a form of emotional intelligence, a spiritual attunement, a divine sensitivity that keeps you aligned with truth in a world of illusion. It helps you build relationships that are real, avoid people who drain you, and show up for those who need you most. Most of all, it keeps you honest with yourself. Because when you see through others, you also learn to see through your own defenses, your own projections, your own blind spots. You hold yourself to the same standard of truth you expect from the world. And that's what makes your insight not just a gift, but a responsibility. You are the mirror many avoid, but secretly need. The one who sees what's real when the world chooses to look away. So continue to trust what you feel, even when others doubt it. Continue to see through the noise, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Because in a world addicted to appearances, your clarity is revolutionary. And your vision is rare. Number 4, you protect your energy fiercely. In a world that constantly pulls at your attention, demands your time, and drains your spirit with noise, chaos, and emotional clutter, protecting your energy fiercely isn't just a preference. It's a form of survival, a radical act of self-respect, and a deeply spiritual practice. You've come to understand that your energy is sacred, that it is the foundation of your peace, your clarity, your purpose, and your power. And you no longer give it away freely to people, places, or situations that deplete rather than replenish you. You've felt what it's like to be surrounded by people who smile to your face but secretly resent your light. To be in rooms that feel heavy even when everyone is pretending to be happy. And to engage in conversations that leave your soul feeling cluttered and numb. And from those experiences, you've learned one of the most valuable lessons a rare personality can ever know. Not everyone deserves access to your spirit. Not everyone deserves to be at peace with your spirit. You are no longer available for energy vampires, chronic complainers, emotional manipulators, or those who only come to take. You've learned that your peace is more important than their approval, that your clarity is more valuable than their validation, and that your silence is more powerful than any forced conversation. So now, you say no without guilt, you cancel plans when your spirit needs rest, and you walk away from what no longer aligns without offering long explanations, because you know that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. You've stopped trying to fix people who refuse to heal themselves, and you no longer feel obligated to entertain relationships where you feel unseen, unheard, or unappreciated. Your boundaries have become your sanctuary, and while some may call you distant, cold, or difficult, you know the truth. You are discerning. You are intentional. You are done wasting your essence on situations that don't nourish your soul. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to honor your purpose. And that requires energy. And energy once spent cannot be returned. So you invest it wisely, like a guardian of a divine wellspring, because you know that when your energy is clean, focused, and protected, you are unstoppable. You've also realized that not every invitation is meant to be accepted. Not every call should be answered, and not every crisis is yours to resolve. You've released the need to be everything for everyone, and in that release, you found strength. You no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable, and you no longer apologize for needing solitude, quiet, and stillness. You protect your mornings, your routines, your sacred spaces, because you know they are the foundation of your resilience. Crowded rooms, meaningless conversations, and chaotic environments no longer entice you, because your soul craves depth, peace, and authenticity. And when something or someone disturbs that inner equilibrium, you remove yourself, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. You know now that not every fight is worth fighting. Not every insult requires a response, and not every disruption deserves your attention. You pick your battles with the wisdom of someone who understands the cost of emotional labor. And in that fierce protection of your energy, you have become magnetic. People feel the difference when they are in your presence. They sense the stillness in you, the strength, the boundaries, and while some may try to test you, to draw you back into old patterns of overgiving and over-explaining, you stand firm because you remember what it felt like when your energy was scattered, when your spirit was tired, when your inner light was dimmed by trying to be everything to everyone. Never again. Now you move with intention. You guard your emotional home the way a warrior guards a temple, because it is a temple, and the more you protect it, the more you elevate. Your energy is your power source, your compass, your truth signal, and you will no longer allow it to be contaminated by distractions, dishonesty, or disconnection. You are at peace with being misunderstood, unfollowed, or left out, as long as your soul remains intact, because you know this truth deeply. Your energy is not for sale, not for trade, not for rent. It is yours, and only those who honor it deserve to be in its presence. Number 5, you feel everything deeply. You feel everything deeply, not as a weakness, but as a sacred gift, though at times it can feel like both a blessing and a burden. In a world that often praises emotional detachment and revolves those who can just move on without processing, your sensitivity is a quiet rebellion, a refusal to numb yourself in the name of convenience or conformity. While others skim the surface of life, you dive beneath it. You don't just see events, you absorb them. You don't just hear words, you feel their weight. A passing glance, a subtle shift in someone's voice, a change in energy in the room, none of it escapes you. Your emotional world is vast and intricate, with layers and echoes that most people cannot imagine and certainly cannot endure. Joy hits you like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, pure and overwhelming, lighting up everything inside you. Sadness comes like a tide, deep, unrelenting, and heavy, but you don't run from it. You sit with it. You let it speak. You let it teach. When someone you love is hurting, you feel their pain as if it were your own. When beauty appears, a sunset, a melody, a quiet moment, you are moved to tears not because you're fragile, but because you're profoundly alive. The depth with which you feel connects you to something greater than yourself, to art, to humanity, to truth, to spirit, to sound on, to connection, to connection, to truth, to connection, to pity, with which you feel connection to PP, you feel worth, you feel heavy heart. It's what gives your words power, your presence weight, and your heart an almost magnetic pull. People come to you not just because you understand, but because they feel understood. Your empathy runs so deep that sometimes you absorb other people's emotions before they even speak. You're the one others confide in, cry to, lean on, because without trying, you hold space in a way that few people can. But with that gift comes an invisible cost. You often carry emotional weight that isn't yours, burdens that don't belong to you, and energies that exhaust you if you're not careful. There are days when the world feels too loud, too cruel, too heavy, and no one around you understands why you're so affected. They say, just shake it off. But you can't, because your heart is not wired that way. You're not built for numbness. You feel the suffering in the world, the injustice, the heartbreak, the cruelty, and it stays with you. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said enough, did enough, helped enough. You care deeply, almost too deeply, in a world that often doesn't seem to care at all. But rather than shutting down, you remain open, even when it hurts. And that is your courage. Your sensitivity allows you to experience the richness of life in all its textures. You love with depth, you grieve with authenticity, you celebrate with your whole heart. When you fall hard. When you rise, it's with purpose. You don't half feel anything, and though it may wear you out at times, it also awakens a kind of wisdom that cannot be taught, only lived. Because you feel deeply, you create deeply. You express yourself through words, through art, through actions that ripple beyond what most people can perceive. You make people feel seen. You inspire reflection. You bring warmth into cold places and stillness into chaos. But you've also learned to be cautious. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to the deepest parts of your heart. You've discovered that your ability to feel so much can be exploited by those who mistake empathy for naivety. So now you protect your sensitivity, not by numbing it, but by being selective with your energy. You set boundaries not to close yourself off, but to honor what's within. And in doing so, you've begun to own your gift. You've started to see that your depth is not something to suppress, but something to channel into healing, into truth, into light. You are a lighthouse in a stormy world. And while the waves of feeling may crash against you, they do not drown you, because you are anchored in your truth. You are alive in a way that most people fear to be. You feel everything deeply, and in that feeling, you hold the power to transform pain into beauty, sorrow into strength, silence into understanding. You are not too much. You are exactly what this world needs more of. Real, raw, and radically alive. Number 6. You are comfortable being alone. You are comfortable being alone, not because you've given up on people, but because you found something in solitude that the world can't always offer. Peace, clarity, and an unshakable connection to yourself. While others scramble to fill their time with noise, attention, and constant interaction, you retreat into your own space with ease, not out of isolation, but out of inner alignment. While at our summit, I set our goal for our launch. You don't fear being alone with your thoughts because you've made peace with them. You've faced your own darkness, sat with your own silence, and walked through your own doubts. And instead of running from them, you've listened, learned, and grown stronger. Solitude, for you, isn't a void to escape. It's a sacred ground where your real self emerges. It's where your creativity blooms, where your emotions settle, where your purpose whispers its truth into your soul without interruption. You don't need constant validation to feel worthy. You don't need background noise to feel alive. You don't depend on crowds to feel seen, because you've learned to see yourself with honest eyes and a gentle heart. In your alone time, you're not lonely. You're in tune. You use that time to reflect, to heal, to build. You read, you write, you walk, you create. You let life breathe through you without filters, without pressure. You create, you let life breathe through you without filters, without pressure. You're not afraid of the silence. You welcome it, because in that silence you reconnect with what truly matters. And that makes you rare in a world addicted to distraction. Most people chase attention to avoid facing themselves. But you've done the inner work. You've navigated the uncomfortable questions. Who am I without others around? What do I believe when no one is influencing me? What brings me joy when no one is watching? These aren't easy questions, but they've built the foundation of your identity, and now you stand rooted in who you are, not in who others need you to be. That doesn't mean you don't enjoy companionship or meaningful relationships. In fact, because you are so whole on your own, you value genuine connection even more deeply. You don't settle for shallow conversations or temporary bonds just to fill space. You'd rather be alone than in the wrong company. Rather be silent than entertain false energy. This discernment means your circle is small but powerful. People who understand your need for stillness, who honor your boundaries, and who meet you on the same frequency of truth. And when you give your time and presence, it's not out of need, it's out of choice, which makes it sacred. Your independence can intimidate those who rely on others to feel okay, but that's because your calm threatens their chaos. Your peace reveals their restlessness. Your ability to enjoy your own company exposes the parts of them they've ignored. But that's not your burden to carry. You didn't come here to shrink to make others comfortable. You came here to be whole. You've learned that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. It is not a punishment, it is a privilege. It is the space where you hear your intuition most clearly, where your spirit recharges, where your mind resets. In solitude, you remember your strength. You realign with your vision. You listen to the inner compass that gets drowned out in the noise of the crowd. And as a result, you move through the world with intention rather than impulse. You act from grounded purpose rather than external pressure. You act from grounded purpose rather than external pressure. You act from grounded purpose rather than external pressure. You speak with depth because you've taken the time to think. You lead with quiet confidence because you've faced the storms alone and survived. And that confidence doesn't scream for attention. It radiates from within. So while the world may chase noise and numbers, you continue to walk your own path in quiet power, knowing that everything meaningful you've built has been born from the stillness you've embraced. You are proof that solitude doesn't diminish you, it strengthens you. That being alone doesn't make you incomplete. It reveals how complete you already are. In your aloneness, you found yourself. And in finding yourself, you become someone the world cannot ignore. Number 7. You inspire without trying. You inspire without trying. Not because you seek attention, applause, or recognition, but because who you are naturally resonates with something deep in others. Something that reminds them of who they truly are, beneath all the noise, fear, and pretense. You don't walk into rooms demanding the spotlight, yet somehow people notice you, not because you're loud, but because your presence is calm, grounded, and quietly magnetic. You carry yourself with an authenticity that's increasingly rare in a world addicted to filters and performance, and it's that effortless sincerity that makes people feel safe around you, seen around you, motivated in your presence without fully understanding why. You don't preach, you live. You don't push your values on others, yet your life becomes a silent example of what it means to be resilient, self-aware, and purpose-driven. People watch you handle challenges with grace and wonder how you remain composed. They see the way you set boundaries without hostility, the way you speak truth without ego, the way you offer kindness without conditions, and it stirs something in them, a quiet realization that they too can live more intentionally. You never needed a stage or a platform to lead. Your life has always been the message. Whether it's your work ethic, your honesty, your ability to hold space for others, or the way you refuse to compromise your values no matter the cost, people are drawn to the strength you don't have to explain. You've likely had people tell you that a single conversation with you changed how they think, that your presence gave them hope, that something you said years ago still echoes in their mind, and you didn't even realize the impact at the time. That's because when inspiration flows naturally through someone, it doesn't arrive with ego, it arrives with essence. You don't inspire because you try to be perfect. In fact, it's your willingness to be real, to be vulnerable, to be raw, and still show up that moves people most. You admit when you're unsure, you speak truth, even when it's hard, and you carry your pain like a lantern that lights the way forward instead of a chain that holds you back. People see you rising through what tried to break you, and it makes them believe they can rise too. You don't dress your life up to look more appealing, you live it honestly, and that authenticity is what elevates everyone around you. Even in your silence, you speak volumes. Even in your solitude, you radiate presence. You might not even fully realize your influence because it comes so naturally, but make no mistake. Your quiet consistency, your emotional intelligence, your refusal to follow the crowd is exactly what the world needs more of. You remind others that power can be gentle, that leadership doesn't require a microphone, that purpose can be lived in the small, unnoticed moments when no one is watching. You don't conform to fit in because you've found peace in standing alone. You're not moved by trends or pressured by timelines. You move in your own rhythm, guided by your own compass. And that alone inspires people to question where they've been compromising themselves just to belong. You're the kind of person people remember not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because your authenticity left a mark. You taught people, without even realizing it, that it's okay to take the long road, to speak softly, to choose soul over spectacle. You're a reminder that living in alignment is more powerful than living for approval. And so, even when you feel unseen, even when it seems like your impact is quiet, trust that your light is working in ways you can't always measure. You may never know the full extent of who you've uplifted, healed, or awakened, but you've done it simply by being true to yourself. And in a world full of noise, your quiet truth is revolutionary. You inspire without trying, not because you are trying to lead, but because you've learned how to live. Number 8. You refuse to be anyone but yourself. You refuse to be anyone but yourself, not out of rebellion, arrogance, or a desire to be different, but because you've spent enough time trying to fit into molds that never matched your soul, and you finally chose truth over approval, authenticity over acceptance, and inner peace over external validation. The same is for you. You refuse to be anyone but yourself. You refuse to be anyone but yourself. Number 7. You feel you are enough no matter what happens. No matter how much you feel, you owe nothing and nobody. You've tasted the emptiness of pretending, the quiet suffering of shrinking to fit into spaces that couldn't hold your full expression, and the loneliness of being surrounded by people who only loved the version of you that played it safe, stayed silent, or fit their expectations. And somewhere along the way, something in you snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. And you made a sacred vow to yourself that from this moment forward, you would never again abandon yourself for the comfort of others. You understand now that your uniqueness is not a flaw to correct, but a fire to protect. You embrace your quirks, your rhythm, your intensity, your gentleness, your contradictions, because they are not mistakes, they are the fingerprints of your spirit. Prove that you are not here to be a copy of someone else, but to be the one and only you. You've stopped apologizing for your truth, stopped diluting your essence to be palatable, stopped editing your light to keep others from feeling small. You show up as you are, unfiltered, unmasked, unafraid, because you know that the right people will never ask you to be less, and the wrong people were never your people to begin with. You no longer chase connection at the cost of your authenticity, because you've learned that no amount of belonging is worth the price of self-betrayal. You walk away from rooms that require you to hide, from conversations that twist your words, from relationships that demand your silence. You'd rather be alone and whole than accepted and fragmented. That's not coldness, that's self-respect. And that unwavering commitment to being yourself is magnetic. People may not always understand you, but they feel your realness. They sense the depth in your presence, the alignment in your choices, the courage in your honesty. You don't live for trends, titles, or applause. You live for truth, and that makes you rare in a world obsessed with fitting in. Your life may not look like anyone else's, but that's exactly the point. You are not here to walk a pre-written script. You are here to write your own story, even if no one claps while you're doing it. You're not afraid to stand out, to speak up, to step away when something no longer resonates. You trust your gut, follow your inner compass, and move in a way that honors your soul, even if it's slower, quieter, or lonely at times. Because you know that authenticity always leads to alignment, and alignment always leads to peace. That peace is your power, and you protect it fiercely. You're done proving your worth, done seeking permission to be yourself, done waiting for the world to catch up to your truth. You lead yourself, and in doing so, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, not of perfection, but of what it looks like to be real. And yes, being real means being misunderstood. It means being questioned, doubted, even rejected. But you accept that, because you'd rather be misunderstood for being genuine than praised for being a lie. You wear your scars with pride, your truth with grace, and your presence with quiet authority. You've stopped running from who you are. And in doing so, you've stepped into a kind of freedom most people never taste, the freedom of being fully, unapologetically yourself. You're no longer looking to be someone else's version of successful, lovable, or worthy. You've defined those things on your own terms. And in a world that rewards imitation, your originality is a quiet revolution. You don't follow the script, you are the story. You don't ask for acceptance, you embody it. And whether the world celebrates you or not, you keep showing up as you are, because that's your power, your peace, and your purpose. You refuse to be anyone but yourself, and in doing so, you've become someone the world can forget. If you see yourself in these 8 signs, know this: you are not broken, you are rare, and rarity often walks a lonelier road, not because it lacks worth, but because it carries depth that not everyone can meet. The world may not always understand your silence, your truth, your need for solitude, or your emotional depth, but never dim your light to make others comfortable. Protect your energy, trust your intuition, honor your boundaries, and never apologize for being real in a world that thrives on illusion. Keep choosing authenticity over approval, depth over drama, and purpose over popularity. Let your life be a quiet revolution of truth, compassion, and presence. And when you feel tired from carrying such depth in a world that often celebrates surface, return to your center and remember, you were never meant to fit in, you were born to elevate. May you always walk in alignment with your highest self. May your path be clear, your heart be guarded by wisdom, and your spirit be led by grace. May you attract only those who see your soul and match your depth. And may you never forget that being rare is not a burden, it is your greatest blessing. Amen.